What's up, everybody? Welcome to Release the Bats podcast. My name is Rich Mendez. This is Sean Rolie.
Hello, hello.
This is Ralph. I don't know his last name, I forgot.
Vega.
Ralph Vega, because I'm bad at names. So this is my old band. You love of God and I don't need your Christian faith. It's pretty brutal.
Trip crystals.
Sounds familiar, right? Cool. It's Chris Alanese on the drums. Wow, this is very exciting. All right, let's go ahead and just tune that out a little bit. So this is 100% completely unscripted, off the cuff. Ralph showed up, Sean Rolie showed up, and we're just talking about whatever is on our minds. So let's just go ahead and start with our week. How's your week been, Sean?
Crazy to say the least.
What have you been doing? I haven't seen you in like a month.
I've been in a lot of cities, doing a lot of different stuff. I spent some time in California, some time in New York. I'm trying to start a label, I think. I'm kind of like trying to figure it out.
Record label.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Ralph was telling me about that.
Yeah, it all started with me sitting in a situation where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I was in a band, I worked in a studio, I've learned a lot about pretty much everything in the music industry, and I thought about applying at Home Depot. And,
no, you did not.
My family,
no way.
You can't do that.
I don't believe that.
I swear to God, I was like looking at the orange aprons going like, hell yeah, man, I can write Sean on that.
All right, dude, just because you look like you know what you're doing with a hammer and a saw, that doesn't mean you know where they're located in the store.
Hey, man, I've built houses before, man. My first thing was construction.
Did you really build a house?
Yeah.
No
and
shit.
I've built cars, and I've always been into like building things. So I was like, well, I'm good at like telling you the numbers on aisle 14. You know, like
There's so much shit in that store. Every time I go in there, though, there's like this sense of masculinity that I need to have, so I just won't ask for shit. I'll just like walk around all the time, and and Home Depot is one of those places where you go and you don't realize how much stuff you need. And you can just go there looking for screws or something, and then all of a sudden you're walking out with light bulbs and cleaning stuff, and maybe like I accidentally bought a vacuum one time.
When you watch chicks like walk into like Nordstrom's and like you're there to buy like underwear, and then all of a sudden you're in the shoe department because she's interested in that.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I'm at like Home Depot. I'll be like, I'm here to buy like a screwdriver, and all of a sudden I'm looking at washing machines. I'm like, oh, this one's cool, man.
Dude, those LG washing machines are off the chain.
Totally, with the risers.
They look so fucking cool.
I have a good story about Home Depot.
Go ahead.
This is something that I heard, so I don't know how like real it is, but Zach from Rise Against, I guess, got into some type of altercation with his band, and they were in North Carolina. And he's like, you know what? Okay, cool. Fuck this. I'm going to go get a job at Home Depot. And so he went and applied. He got off the bus. They were supposed to have sound check or whatever. And they get off the bus, and he takes off. I don't know if he like took a lift or had a driver or what happened, but he went to Home Depot and he applied, and he got the job, and so they gave him the apron and the whole thing. And
bullshit, really?
This is what I heard. And so he came back to sound check, and they had finished. He had the apron on, and he's like,
did he have a badge?
Well, he had the little name tag, whatever. And so he ended up coming back, and he's like, I'm either doing this or you guys are gonna listen to me. And so they ended up like renegotiating some things and whatever. And cool. So he played that night in the apron.
That's awesome.
And that was kind of his thing, but I guess he doesn't work there. But it gave me thoughts of going there. But I essentially what happened is I started a production company because I didn't know what I was doing, but I know how to work on music. And so I started that, and then one thing after another started coming around, and I had like licensing all of a sudden, and PR, and then booking, and then like all these people that I knew were calling me out of the blue, and it all just started making sense.
Wow, that's really cool.
The newest thing that just happened was The company that acquired Sony Red Distribution is called The Orchard, and they contacted me, and so I'm in the process of figuring out our contract, but I think we pretty much have it there. And if I have that distribution, that gives me international distribution for whatever my production company was. And when I talked to legal counsel this last week in LA, they were like, "So you started a label?" And I'm like, "What?"
I guess I did.
Maybe. Like, I don't know. I just want to make stuff sound cool, man.
Accidentally fell into a really cool opportunity, sounds like to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm embracing it, and like I was talking about earlier, it's just like what I want to do is take away the 360 deal. Like when people that are involved in the music industry are taking your T-shirt money, like that's how you make your money on the road. That's how you afford gas.
For those of people who don't know, what's a 360 deal? Like me, I don't know what that is.
360 deal is something that came along in the early 2000s, just post Napster era, when music started getting distributed through like MP3 stuff. No money was coming in from that. And so what they established was a thing they called the 360 deal. And what that is they take a percentage of everything that comes in to your band. This is a problem because bands rely on tour money
and the merch.
Merch and stuff like that. If you're a record label, the idea is that you create a record, you make money off the record, and then the band goes out and makes more money and does their thing, and they make their money to make enough money to have another record, and then you make money off the next record because they're bringing in the cash, right? So
that makes sense.
So what happened was they weren't doing their jobs correctly, and so they decided, well, we're just going to take from everything that the band's making, and now these bands that are on the road, they're starving to death, and it's like, as coming from like where I was with my career as a musician, everyone took money away from me, and no one really paid me well. And I want to have like some type of foundation of like a new like renaissance of the music industry where it's like, you know what, Interscope and Columbia and Warner Brothers and whoever, like, fuck these guys, like they're so uninterested in music to a point where it's like if you graduate from USC with like a master's in business and maybe you heard the Beatles once, you can get a job there, but I'd have a hard time getting a job there.
It's ironic. The irony you're saying, the business ethics and regarding the music industry is a bit ironic, is what you're kind of sounds like what you're saying.
Yeah, it's.
I've never really been at that level to even have to wonder or negotiate about any kind of record contract or anything. But some friends of mine and people, mutual friends of ours that we all know, have told me kind of like sort of like stuff that you're saying. I heard this really cool podcast with that dude Everlast from House of Pain, and I just want to hear him talk more about it because he seemed to have like all the nuts and bolts and all the what have you like in a way I understood it. And he did the podcast. The most recent podcast he did was with Joe Rogan Experience, which is one of my favorite podcasts ever.
He's fucking awesome,
dude. Yeah, he is. But the Everlast one, you should listen to the Everlast one because the Everlast, he's just like, I'm on my own label. I'm doing my own things. This is how I'm making money. And he kind of like went through like the A, B's, and C's of what you do. This is how you do it, and this is what it takes. And kind of like I want to hear it again. But he is one of the persons too that also kind of said something about the label and the record industry and how it works, and kind of like they're vampires and whatnot. You hear a lot of rappers talk about that too. I hear a lot of rap. I listen to a ton of rap, and you often hear stuff like they're on their own. They made it on their own. They're not on a major label and all that kind of stuff. And for rap, I guess like the average lifespan or career span for a successful rapper is anywhere between 2 2 to 4 years, I think, is what it is, or 3 to 4 years max.
It's like
because of how it's set up, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's about the time span of being a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. Like it goes away quickly. The thing is with those guys, the way that they're running everything, from the best that I can make of it, and this is kind of what I'm doing with my label. What I can understand about it is that they're utilizing all of the outlets that majors are using without having the major be the middleman. They are the middleman.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to pay Warner Brothers 90% of the money that's coming in. You just take all the people that they're working with and then you run with it, which is why these guys are driving around in, Escalades and Ferraris and, Bugattis and stuff. It's because they're not paying into a system to pay for some, young rich kid that doesn't understand music to sit there and tell him what to do. I had a meeting at Warner, and the guy that I was talking to, and I won't say his name because I don't want to, make him out to be the bad guy necessarily, but I had a meeting with him, and he was talking about some different things, and I gave him some ideas. We went back and forth, and he goes, well, that's not how the music industry works. And I couldn't help myself. I kicked my chair back, and I was like, works? Like, it's not working. Like, the only thing that you guys are doing is you're trying to, get into a Skechers ad, or, if you're in the new Transformers, you made enough money to, pay for your Tesla and make sure that your girlfriend isn't cheating on you. It's not working. You guys are just utilizing other companies and other industries and piggybacking on them, but you guys aren't doing anything to sell music at all. All you're doing is you're just trying to bank and make your quarterly, and then as long as your boss doesn't get mad at you, then whatever. And you don't care about the music. You don't care about how much energy is being put into this from the artist's perspective. Yeah. And the artists are so hungry, they'll take anything, and the labels know it. So
dude, artists will kill themselves.
Yeah, and so I'm somewhere in between all of that, where it's like, of course I got to keep the lights on. I got to figure out a way to make money. But what I want to do is I want to sell records again. And from some of the younger people I've worked with, they don't want to stream something on Spotify. They want to buy something they can hold and look at and feel and smell and taste. It's like the difference between a Kindle and a book, right?
Yeah.
You can feel it. You can feel the paper, the sound of it.
I understand what you're saying. The more, it's it seems like it's more, item. Yeah, more intimate or what have you.
Is that why you think vinyl is popular again?
I keep hearing these things like vinyl's coming back, but for me, it's always been like one of the things here. Just
I think
closer to the mic.
Think,
or pull the mic back a little bit. Maybe might be better, so you can hear it.
I think with vinyl, what's going on with that is that there's a bit of a novelty to it, where it's cool if you're into vinyl because it's different.
You're talking about pressing vinyl.
Well, I mean,
you collect vinyl, right? You collect vinyl
every now and again. Yep.
Yeah, I've been collecting vinyl for a long time. I've always loved vinyl, man. Trella did give me all their vinyl stuff. They even gave me their test pressings. Wow. Yeah, but I'm a huge collector of vinyl. So I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I read online that vinyl increased something crazy, 30% increase in vinyl sales over MP3s. I'm not sure if that's because the fans know that that's how their bands are eating more, or if they just if they just become collectors. You know what I mean? I'm somewhat of a collector. I bought that Suicide Boys album over there. I already have the digital copy, but I want that vinyl.
Well, I think that music's supposed to be an experience, and when you deal with something like an MP3, it becomes the soundtrack to the background of whatever it is that you're actually doing. Let's have some friends over. They're going to bring a 12-pack. We're going to hang out. We're going to smoke something funny. We're going to do whatever. The MP3's in the background, and there's a movie on, and somebody's playing PS4 in the corner, and, whatever. It's just kind of there. And if you can pay $9.99 a month and get access to the entire catalog of everything that you like, it doesn't pay the artist, but for the person, it's just kind of something that's not important. But if you went to let's say 1971, you wanted to go see Led Zeppelin, right? The only way that you could get them is by paying money to go to the show or paying to look at the inside of a vinyl and look at it and sit down with your friends, put the licorice pizza on and play
just,
the record.
yeah.
And you sit down and you talk about it afterwards. You'd evaluate it. Nobody talked through it. But with MP3s, it's really easy to skip around. I mean,
I see what you're saying. I see what you mean.
so
I see what
there's
you
something that's like, it's an event. You know, the vinyl is an event. The
Henry-
show is an event.
Henry Rollins said something very similar. He says, like, when I put on a record, I guess Henry Rollins has like this crazy, super crazy, like sound system at home. And he says, I just get the record, I put it on the turntable. He's got like some $3,000 turntable or something, and then he puts the needle on. He sits back his room just to listen to music and experience it, just like how you're saying.
Like, don't skip tracks. Like, one of the I was driving with my dad the other day.
I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty
A
of
lot
that.
of people are, because the attention span is very, very.
No, not skip through the entire song, but like, I don't want to hear that song right now. Let's skip through that. But
Right. So I've made it a point to listen all the way through a song, and this is something I talked to my dad about, and he was saying, like, that takes a lot of patience, and I'm like, well, somebody put a lot of energy into this, and maybe there's a change that I didn't know was coming up, and I have another 45 seconds to 3 minutes to listen to the rest of what this human being put into this. Like, yeah,
I guess I see what you're saying, because just like when you're with your band, and then you write songs with your band, and then you get these songs together, and then you go play a show. It's always about the set list. Let's do this one first. Let's do this. Oh, we got to do this one last. So when it goes into the album creation itself, the tracks are in a very specific order according to how the artist. Yeah, that makes sense.
I listen all the way through as a fan of art and music. One thing that I listened to with the Rick Rubin thing I was telling you about was something I've been saying forever. But I had this one thing where I was going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in New York, and before I went there, I went to the Museum of Modern Art, and it's called MoMA. It was right down the street from the hotel I was staying in, and I'm a big fan of art, and like walking through and just looking at all these different pieces, I was like the first person there, and so there was no one in the entire place. I mean, everybody was like still standing outside, and I was like one of the first people that was walking around, and I found Van Gogh's Starry Night. I don't know if you know that painting. That's pretty.
Yeah,
famous.
I've only seen like pictures. I haven't been there to see the actual art though. I heard it's relatively small, right?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's about half the size of that Smith's poster that you have.
Oh, I thought it was smaller than that. Oh well, I'm thinking of something else.
Well, I saw it. And it's before they put up the you know how they put the ropes in front of like stuff. That's
Yeah, don't
famous
touch
and-
this shit.
Right, because people
Yeah.
grow up and they want to like
Yeah,
touch
don't
everything.
fuck with this. This is velvet shit right here. Okay.
So I walked up to it and I saw on the outsides of the painting. I mean, you can buy it at Bed Bath and Beyond. It's a famous painting, like there's prints of it everywhere.
Right,
You can buy
pillows.
T-shirts of it.
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
whatever, right?
Pillowcases and stuff.
Yeah, but I walked up to the actual original, and what I saw was not the painting itself. I saw the sketch lines on the outside of where he had originally started doing it. And it's
Oh.
in pencil.
Oh, cool.
And it's on the canvas. And I remember sitting there for about 45 minutes looking at it. And it was like a long, drawn-out thing. I'm like, here I go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm going to hang out with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Lenny Kravitz. And
Okay, hang on for
Pearl
one.
Jam
Hang on for
and-
1 second. Back up. We're talking about the Van Gogh painting. You just said Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What the fuck are you doing at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, we'll get to that. Let me finish what I'm saying.
No.
So anyway, I saw it, and I was looking at this painting, and I saw the little sketch marks, and I was like, I had this like epiphany of like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, is I want to make the sketch marks. I want music to sound real. I want it to be something that like, here's the moment where a human being did something.
Yeah.
And one of the problems that I have with modern music right now, and part of the reason why I love your music is because it has the sketch marks. Rich?
My music?
Yeah, I mean, you.
Oh,
you
well,
have,
yeah,
like,
you
that-
recorded us too.
Well, I
But
guess
you
I'm a
made it,
little biased,
yeah. But you made it like you made it the way it was to make it sound good. Thank
but
you.
you just let it be what it is, and then it's up to the person, and when you hear the human in it. Well, I saw the human in that painting. Modern music has become something where it's like, if the chorus doesn't happen in 30 seconds, I'm not interested anymore, and that's why people skip tracks. But if people would take a little bit more time to appreciate something, like, you can't listen to Dark Side of the Moon and skip through it. You got to listen to the whole
I listened to
thing,
that.
you
I
know?
actually just listened to Dark Side of the Moon yesterday. The whole thing.
Yeah.
I went on a jog around this park and I listened to the whole thing. And the clocks bling bling, dude, and it's fucking awesome, man. I haven't heard it. And if there's any proof of fucking like some kind of higher power or heaven, like that album is absolutely proof
Right.
of some sort of like divine
Or it's-
architect, because it's perfect.
Like Sergeant
perfect-
Pepper.
it's a perfect album.
Or, even some of the like Guns N' Roses stuff, or like, depending on what your flavor is, or a Run DMC record, or like a Dre record. I mean, you listen to the whole thing, and like, regardless of what it is that you're interested in, there was a lot of effort that was put into those, and now
Yeah.
I feel like they're doing stuff that's like 15 seconds at a time. And it's like, if it doesn't hit in 15 seconds, then I'm not interested, and all I want to hear is wop 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 wop. I mean, maybe I kissed a girl and I liked it one time, whatever. Like,
I love that
it's-
song.
We're not friends anymore.
I love that song. We're talking about Katy Perry. Okay, so that's when she first came out, and I was like, I'm somewhat partial to brunettes, and when I saw her and her hair, and she was just so beautiful, and then she sang that song. Then she's talking about kissing a girl, and I'm just
Cherry
like,
chapstick.
dude, I didn't. Yeah, exactly, and that just. Because I know the cherry chapstick. Not that I have any, but I've kissed girls
I know
with
what you
cherry.
do
I've
privately
kissed.
now.
Because I don't fuck with chapstick, man. Because if you do, then you're gonna constantly need it, and your lips crack, and it's fucked up.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. Anyways, so but no, Katy Perry, and then she was dating that dude, that tall, skinny British dude. Anyways, with the long hair, and he's totally sober now. Anyways, and I was jealous. I remember, but I was like, fuck yeah, good for him. Anyways,
I just had a random. Like,
that's my story about Katy Perry.
I had a random visual of
You made me think of that.
the Silence of the Lambs, when he's like putting on his makeup and he's like, "Would you fuck me? I'd fuck.
I'd
you."
fuck me.
And that's Rich, like on a Wednesday, hanging out with his cherry chapstick.
Wednesday? How about every day? I look in the mirror.
breakfast.
I look in the mirror and I'm just like, oh, you beautiful motherfucker. How can you enlighten somebody's life today?
Ralph, what are you up to, dude? Like,
Let's talk about Ralph real quick.
I'm kind
Ralph,
of like
let's get the mic.
hogging
Bring
the
it.
mic. You got to get up.
Yeah,
on
you
that
got. You have
thing.
to get up on the mic. So you can also be
You could
in
probably
the
shut
shot.
him up a little bit over there too.
No, he's-
no. Just the volume.
Oh, his volume.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah. All
That's
right.
a little better.
So Ralph is involved literally in the music industry as more or less a guitar technician, correct? Yeah, and he's worked with so many bands before. Just name the bands you've worked with, places you've been. Let's hear about it, man.
Black Angels.
Black
Trail of
Angels,
Dead,
Trail of Dead,
James Vincent McMorrow. Sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, I worked with them a bunch.
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I've met Matt Pike a couple of times. Matt Pike, I think, is from
Yeah.
San Jose, California, originally,
Yeah,
where I was from.
They live in Portland now.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way expensive in the Bay Area now, I'd imagine. And then Matt Pike was in a band. Oh, he started High on Fire, and they were okay. So Sleep shared a rehearsal space with that death metal band Exhumed. Do you remember
Really?
Exhumed?
I do.
Okay, so
I don't remember.
back when Cole was playing drums in Exhumed, Cole is married to a woman named she's a Japanese woman, Chio. I think her name is Chio. She's a drummer for a band called Newthgrush. Anyways, it's like all intertwined in that area. And so when Sleep broke up, I remember we were walking through the rehearsal spaces there, and it was called the Rock Garden. And we saw Sleep, or saw Matt Pike, and I was like, hey, it's the dude from Sleep. And we were just like in some shitty punk band, and he's like, hey, you guys want to hear my new band? And we're just like, sure. He's like, dude, we're called High on Fire, man. It's kind of loud. And I was like, all right. He was very excited. He was still like super long hair. He, skinny type bell bottom jeans, and it was just him and the drummer. And we go into the rehearsal space, and he was playing through two full green stacks, like top, bottom, head. He had two of them.
Two heads, four
Dude,
cabs.
dude, it was insane. And then they fucking jammed the song, and I remember the song was so loud, it just hurt. And Matt was, and then it was like me and a couple other people. And he's like, yeah, we're called High on Fire, man. You got to come out to our gigs. I think we're playing some gigs, and I got some stuff lined up. He's like, yeah, and the sleep thing, I love sleep, but this is my new thing right now. This is what I want to focus on. And I was like, wow, cool. And I just thought it was cool that the guy from Sleep was talking to me. I had no idea that High on Fire was going to grow into some giant, massive monster of a band, which I've seen Sleep a few times. No, I saw them twice only. No, I only saw them once, but I saw High on Fire a bunch of times. And that's really cool that you worked with them. Did you work with them over at the gig when they played at
Moody Theater?
No, not Moody Theater.
That
You
was
were
the
at the Moody
last one.
Theater?
Yeah.
Oh.
We did Dallas. What else? Houston. And then Psycho Las Vegas both years.
If somebody wants to become a guitar tech, what would you suggest to them? Like, what's the way to get into that sort of thing?
I think it's all who you know, and I kind of taught myself and just kind of went with it, and then just met other people that did it and learned some tips and tricks from them, and just all who you know, and like if people like you, they'll call you. I don't know.
I think that you're a really, really nice guy, and you're a cool dude to be around, and I don't get any bad vibe from you, and I think that people pick up on that, and they want to work with you because you're a cool dude. I think that's a lot, and then you just happen to have some guitar skill stuff, and then you're like, oh, I could do that, because like nobody wants to work with an asshole, no matter how good you are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think it's a lot about the vibe, and I think that's kind of like how Sean and I kind of vibed off of each other. Him and I were hanging out and partying like months before I knew he was like a producer, or where he worked. And one day we just started talking about the bubble. And it was by that time we were just like already brothers. We're like, holy shit, all right, cool. Do you want to record my band? And then that kind of stuff. And then it sort of spiraled. And so, nice guy, nice guy, nice guy. This is not an accident. Birds of a feather. Nobody wants to work with assholes, and that's all there is to it. I think that your attitude, you have a really positive attitude, and I think that goes a long way. In addition to having the skills, and then of course, as you go along, you pick up and learn stuff from other people, which makes you way more valuable and then way more wanted. I didn't know that you worked for the High on Fire deal. That's pretty cool.
No, not High on Fire. Sleep.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sleep.
Yeah, and the Sword.
One of my favorite bands. And the Sword too?
Yeah. Did that last year.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
it was
pretty
fun.
rad. Those guys are awesome.
Dude,
Yeah,
JD's really
super
cool.
nice guys.
Yeah.
JD's really cool, dude. I remember I saw JD at a party one time, and this band that he used to play with called Those Peabodys. They were playing a house party down near campus. Excuse me. And I saw JD, and I was like, "You're not gonna play?" And he's just like, "No, I got my new band. We're called The Sword." And I was like, "What does it sound like?" And he goes, "Kind of like Fu Manchu, maybe." And then I was like, "I love In Search Of," and he goes, "That's the best album from Fu Manchu ever."
It's awesome.
In Search Of, and then I hadn't really heard of In Search Of. I just said that because I didn't know what to say, and then I went and listened to In Search Of, and of course, it's a great album.
Playing off of what you were saying earlier about like how do you get a job as anything in the music industry. It all starts with just the hang. It starts with a dream. If you have an idea of like, well, I kind of like this stuff, I want to be around it, and you turn out to be like a pretty cool guy to hang with. The stresses that come with touring or being involved in record production or whatever are very high, and it requires an extreme amount of patience. And so when you meet someone that's like really cool, you're like, I mean, I'll teach you how to string a guitar, dude. Like, but just come and hang with me, Like, thank God you're not an asshole, And so when it comes to talking about these different bands, the one thing that the majority of the bands that I've worked with that are very successful have in common is that the hang's cool. And it's like when it's time to go and do something, they have the skill set to pull it off. The people that I've worked with that haven't succeeded are the ones that are the most difficult. And it's a lot of infighting, a lot of problems.
Yeah, totally.
We got to take fucking 97 because you guys don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to play your instrument. You just have like a cool bandana on your head. Like that doesn't make you a musician.
Yeah, I see
but
that.
when you put the team together and you have someone like Ralph like running guitars and Rich, like if you're playing guitar on stage and you trust each other and it's like, yeah, dude, here's the thing. Oh, I kind of screwed up tonight. Oh, no worries, man. It's cool. And then you have a beer together at the end of the night and get back on the bus.
It's like, so important.
That is the most important thing. And that's what creates a well-oiled machine and a system. When you're not establishing a system is when you're focused on ego or any type of like
there's going to be bumps in the road here and there, but
the thing that ruins the business of the music industry and keeps you from making music is business itself. What makes it work is the mystery of what happens before and after the show.
Right.
And that mystery is the thing that people are buying into more than even the show itself. It's like, where are they now? And what's changed, in my opinion, in the music industry is people are so hungry that this is kind of a weird pun, but they're so hungry they'll show a picture on their Instagram of like the spaghetti they're having that night, and like no one fucking cares. Like, nobody cares.
I hate spaghetti. I hate spaghetti. Yeah, spaghetti's gross, dude. Yeah.
But the point is, like, if you have some bit of mystery where people are like, well, where are they? And chances are you're in a really horrible bus stop somewhere in the middle of, bumfuck nowhere. But if you guys are all like hanging out together and you're having a good time and, laughing about it and you don't post it, when you show up to the next gig, people are like, I can't wait to see them because I don't know where they've been. And the pressure of that comes upon artists and crew and all of that is really intense because when you show up, there's a lot of stuff going on and you're trying to do your job and you got people coming at you from all angles.
Right.
So like with Ralph and this thing, like, it's like, just be cool. And if you're cool and you meet the right people and you hang out and you're not like overly in a hurry to try to sell yourself to them.
Yeah.
You just become friends the way you and I did, Rich.
Right.
Like, I wasn't selling you anything. I just liked you because you're a cool dude,
Yeah.
And like, that's how you do it. Everything else is just details.
It was actually such a delight whenever I'd go hang out with him and I'd be like, yep. He's like, you want to hang out and have a beer? I'm like, yep. And I'm talking to meeting. We're just talking about music and stuff. And it does help a lot, like when you're on the road, because sometimes if you're on the road and on tour, I would say any longer than 2 weeks, you sort of start getting that cabin fever stuff. Everything's getting on your nerves. You're like, oh, again, I gotta eat this, or I don't want to, I'm gonna
don't eat any more Cheerios. I don't like the sound of it in your mouth.
I gotta get back on this bus. Why do we got lobby call at 6 a.m.? That kind of shit. After a couple weeks, but it definitely helps when you're with some good homies and your team is strong.
Smoother.
And it's just like every day. And when I was on tour with Trail of Dead, there was some times where I was like, I thought I was fucking up, or I thought I wasn't doing something right, or maybe I tripped on stage when I was handing somebody their guitar or whatnot, because Trail of Dead shows are basically just like, you never know what's going to happen. It's very chaotic. But after every show, it's, every one of those dudes would come up to me, especially Autry, and he'd be like, dude, thank you so much tonight. You did a great job. And that shit goes a fucking long way.
A mile and a half,
yeah, because you're just sitting there and you're just like, oh my God, did I fuck up? What did I? And then you got them coming up to you going, hey, dude, it was a tough show tonight. You did a really good job. So that kind of stuff goes a long way. When I worked with AWOL Nation, same thing. I'm like, I'm just making sure that I have all this stuff and fucking all these crazy rock stars here. We're at the top of the W, and there's like Silver Sun pickups, the Nationals there. I'm doing this giant fucking show, and all these rock star people are there, and movie actors and stuff, and I'm just nervous as fuck. Yeah, and those guys came up to me, they're like, hey man, you did a great job. And Silver Sun pickup dude came up to me, he's just like, I don't know who you are, but you're on top of it, man. You do excellent job. And that just made me feel like, okay, all right, I'm I'm doing a good job.
It's amazing. Like even with like,
It does. It goes a long way because as a guitar tech, you're sort of not out there. You're part of you're a cog in the wheel that makes that machine work, and it's important.
everybody has
to fill,
their place in all of that, and
Right.
it's so complex because you go from the recording process to now we have proper like label representation, and then you have touring, and then you have people that are in charge of crew and whatever transportation, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot to take in, and the thing that I found was when I toured. What made me feel the most comfortable was when somebody really took time, like within the crew or the band or whatever, to stop and sit down with me and just talk about life, and just like, yeah, your girlfriend's kind of screwing up. That's a little weird. Like, how you doing, buddy? And like, you have these conversations while you're on these like long road trips to your next destination. And then you got to get up there and like kick ass and pretend like you're just awesome. And you just, piss excellence every morning, and like the whole time you're like crying in the back of your head because you're worried about what your girlfriend's doing at home or whatever. But the camaraderie of it is something that is really important. And that's what makes the system work, is like when everybody cares about each other and yet we all know how to do our job effectively. Like if I'm going to be a drum tech, I'm not going to be going over to the lead singer telling him like he's hitting the wrong note. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You got to like focus on your job. And that's really the trick to all of it, is like with all of the complexities of like start to finish, I have an idea, I'm going to sing a song, I'm going to record it, I'm going to put a band together, I'm going to get on the road, I'm going to build this whole thing up, I'm going to, build this system that's working. It all comes down to just like, is the hang cool and are you enjoying yourself? And past that, everything else just figures itself out, and like you could go to school for years, learning about recording or learning about guitar teching or learning about doing anything. And it's still not the thing.
It doesn't matter until you're in it. Speaking of which, you mentioned something earlier. You were saying, saying something about truck stops or the food at the trucks. Did you say that, or was I just thinking about that?
I think you were thinking.
I think I was thinking about that, but or maybe you said it. Yeah, you're at the same.
I'm talking about bus stops.
Yeah, okay, yeah, bus stops, truck stops. Oh, speaking of which, I never knew that the truck stops or the rest stops in Europe are like 10 times better than the ones here in the States.
Right, you get like
like real food. It's like real good. It's like quality, everything.
They got it figured out.
Yeah, everyone's super friendly. I was just because, and then in Europe they don't call them truck stops; they call them services. They say services. Oh, services. We're stopping at a service station, and then they would have like I think it was in Germany. Every place that we stopped, every service place, they had these awesome, crazy like beef cheese paninis, and they were just so delicious. It was, there was no like microwave burritos or
the bomb,
sketchy ass nachos. Yeah, the bomb.
The bomb burrito.
I'm guilty. Is like that. I'm guilty.
In England, you get those pies. They have those
yes,
pies
the pies, kebabs and stuff. Yeah, the food in Europe is way awesome. And also, what I noticed in Europe is that the fans are way more like in tune to the band, what's going on, everything. I can't tell you. After every gig, the fans would come up to me and they'd just be like, "Hey, mate, you were on top of it, mate. I had never seen anybody move like you." Just going crazy. And then I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much." Like, no, you don't understand. You did a great. The fans are telling me that, and I was like, "Wow." So over here in the States, they're just like, "Man, nobody."
It's the same thing as like trying to date here. It's like you run into a girl and it's like, "So what are you gonna do for me?" And it's like almost like fans are kind of all that way, in America, and they're just like, "Okay, well, impress me." It's like,
yeah, and
right. And then they get bored.
That's
and
why
they
I
try
don't
to hit
date.
skip, but they can't because it's a live show. But in Europe, it's definitely different. I'm working on a show right now in July in Moscow and Kiev, and it's this like festival that's being put on, and it's so weird the way that all of it came about. But what I'm trying to put together is Coldplay, Eminem, Drake, Aerosmith, Journey, Cheap Trick, and sticks. And so the idea behind it is that it's just a lot of different types of music.
I'm gonna be a blue collar man.
When I talked to this guy about the whole thing, I brought it up to him. I'm like, people in Europe don't care what the genre is. They just want to see cool stuff. So we could put together a festival of like all of this different music, and instead of it just being like Stagecoach Festival or Bonnaroo or Burning Man, I like to, grow my armpit hair out and wear bandanas, like whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be genre specific. It could just be cool music. And what made me think of it is when I went to one of the original Coachellas, I had seen it was Coldplay and Massive Attack and Bauhaus and Prodigy and like all this stuff, and it was all on the same stage, and I was like, this is rad, like it's like going through like a shuffle mode.
Stuff is like, dude, Massive Attack, they're gonna do a reunion tour with Liz Fraser from Cocktail Twins 2019, and I'm super excited about that.
Wow.
Continue with the story.
Well, anyway, it was incredible. And so, like, anyway, my point is that there are fans in the world of music still that want to take out their dollar and purchase something. American fans are very interesting it's a very hard market to crack, which is why maybe it's
They want free stuff.
well, they just
That's it. That's all there is.
they're
to
just
it.
not listening. They're not looking at the guitar tech. They're
Something's
not
going on. Yeah, you're right. Something is definitely going on.
They don't even know what the difference is between a kick drum and a bass instrument.
Even friends of mine. I'm not trying to shit on any of my friends, but when I put together gigs and I'm putting together a show and I've got bands I gotta pay and all that kind of stuff, and when people call me, and I love you all, okay, but when the show's $5 and you're asking me if I can get you in for $5, if I'm not worth $5, that's kind of like, come on, man. Come on. And then you get them in the show and they're like, oh, can I have a t-shirt? I got to the point where I was just like, hang on for a second. Let me get my manager real quick. T-shirts are $10 and CDs are $15. You heard from the manager. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to fucking... I don't know how else to tell you. There ain't no other way to cut it or slice it. If I ain't dating you and you're not my girlfriend, you're not getting into the show for free. And if you don't want to pay $5 to come see me and hang out with me, then I don't know what to tell you.
My favorite move that I came up with happened when I was in a band in high school, and we weren't really that good, but we were trying. We were doing the best we could.
What was the name of the band?
It was called Tritium before Trivium came out. And when Trivium came out, I ended up getting endorsements because they thought I said Trivium. And so I got a bunch of endorsements.
You're like, no, it's Titium. Was it Titium?
Tritium.
Oh, Tritium.
Yeah, it's the third isotope of hydrogen. It's an element.
That's just way too smart for me, dude.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, so I had that band, and we never really did anything. We had some people interested, but it was a high school band, whatever.
Cool.
But our competition was like the rival band, right?
There was a rival band?
I was growing up in a school where there was like 4,000 people at the school, 4,000 students. So it was a pretty big school.
That's a giant school.
And we would each have concerts at like lunch, and we would like kind of battle off of each other. And like this one band was more popular than mine, and the lead singer or the lead guitar player or something, he was such a jerk. And I remember him always getting all the girls, and he had the fame in high school.
Guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, it's stupid to talk about now, but like the point is like, it's all a matter of perspective. Well, he went off, I went off, I went and lived my life. I started multiple bands. I was touring really heavily at the time that this happened, but he sends me an email. Somehow he got my email address, and he sends me an email. And he said, hey, man, I'm going to be in Dallas, and I saw that you're playing this theater, and I'd like to get tickets. Is there any way I can get tickets? And I hated the guy, like, so much. Like, I'm a really nice person, but this guy was just a jerk. He was just super egotistical. So I was like, yeah, sure. And so I sent him a link to Ticketmaster.
Oh, really?
Yes, you can get tickets. Well, funny enough, the guy ended up buying tickets, and he showed up, and he bought all of our merch and did everything. And like, I ended up inviting him to an after party. He turned out to be a pretty cool dude.
It's
But
better-
I saw him, and he's like, he had like a skullet. It was like a weird looking thing, and like his t-shirt was all, you know, ripped up. He looked real hard and put away wet. You know, I mean, he was like not doing well. And so we hung out, and I told him, you know, I didn't mean to be a jerk by sending you the Ticketmaster thing, but the thing is that this is what I do for a living. Like, I'm not here like for charity. You know, this is how I make my money. This is how I keep my lights
That's how
on.
it goes.
So, like, you know, that's why I sent you that. But so many people just want like free stuff, and even in this town in Austin, you know,
A lot, yeah.
Like the reason why Free Week happens is because people will wait for Free Week to go out. They're like, I'll spend, you know, $150 on beer for you to come over, but it's $5. I think I'm gonna stay home.
I remember one time I put a giant show together at Room 710 when it was still around, and
Is that Valhalla now?
Yeah.
Valhalla now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I put I forgot, we had some pretty big bands on there, and one of the main concerns I had as a musician was like I wanted all the bands. I forgot who I had. I think I had that band. One-Eyed Girl. Was it One-Eyed Girl?
One-Eyed Doll.
One-Eyed Doll.
One-Eyed Doll,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
One-Eyed Doll. We were playing a show with them, I believe. Anyways, I wanted to make sure everybody got paid because all the bands that were playing were my friends, and they were great bands. And not saying anything bad about how Osher did things at 710, but a lot of people got in there for free. Let's just put it that way. So I had to hire my own door guy. I had my own door
used to
guy, and
do
I'm
that
like,
too, yeah.
I was just like, okay, dude, I forgot what I did. I was just like, I'm gonna pay the door guy $100, and here's your job. Don't let anybody through this door without paying $5. Period. And that was it.
It kills
So-
me because it's $5.
But everybody was mad at, and the management came up to me like, hey, Rich, I'm like, hey, you guys gave me the date, you guys gave me the venue, I'm paying everybody here tonight, I'm paying the door guy, I'm paying the sound engineer, I need to make money to pay them, they got to pay to come in. And it didn't go over very well with a lot of people. A lot of people were just like, this is my bar, it's free on this side. I'm like, yeah, but you're getting a free show because there's a big hole in the wall, and I'm trying to pay everybody. Because that's what I was. I'm more on board with your idea. I'm like, I want to make sure everyone gets paid, man. That's all. Everyone to make everybody happy on their.
One of the
on
things
their
I
end.
talk about is, you know, it comes down to casting your vote, right? So, like, if you, and it's ironic that we're on our voting day.
Already voted.
I feel like if you like something and you want it to stick around, then throw a little bit of some money towards these guys and let them have a fucking pizza tonight. You know, I mean, like,
Oh, yeah.
it's not like they're asking for $1 billion to do what they're doing. Just cast your vote. Like, if you like it, then go and buy it. Buy their music. Don't just stream it. Don't do that. Like, go and help these guys continue to make stuff that you like. And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't really like it.
Or when I go to like I go to a lot of places and they let me in for free, I'll just still buy a ticket. I'll be like, I've had people jump over the bar. No, Rich doesn't have to pay. And I'm just like, no, I want to pay.
Yeah, you're casting your vote for the place.
I want to support the band. I want to pay. That's what, because I'm in a band.
I do.
And I know what it's like to only get paid $50 after the end of the night. You know what I mean?
Or nothing.
Or nothing.
I've done the nothing a lot.
I've done the nothing many times.
But yeah, you know, the thing that's unfortunate is the modern music fan is not understanding what it takes to put all of it together. And part of that, I think it starts with the artist, because if you can afford to get a laptop and like one of these little, like, you know, Akai things or whatever, technically I guess you're a record producer and an artist. You know, and so it's become so easy. Like, if you've worked with Ableton, I was just working on a project in Houston.
I want to get Ableton.
It's rad, but
Is it? It's rad, isn't it?
yeah, but it's a trip because it's almost like too easy, and it just sounds like everything else.
That's what I like. That's what I want.
But it's great in tandem with somebody that's actually really playing. But when you just like drag and drop, like you could make an entire record on an airplane flight from here to New York. You know, it's just so easy how it all like goes together, which is incredible. But the consumer is recognizing how music is lacking. Like, they don't feel human interaction, what they feel is a laptop. And so they've kind of lost interest in paying for it. And it's not special anymore. It's not Bohemian Rhapsody.
So basically,
It's, you know,
so
like,
basically what you're saying is like, what I'm getting from this is technology, stuff like this kind of, not only is it disconnecting people from people, but also disconnecting people from how, how intimate art can be.
right. Well, and the irony of it is,
Is this thing on? No, it's not.
that's just you hitting the table.
I can make it. I can make it work. I love that thing. Neil Bush. Neil Bush. He lent that to me indefinitely.
The Akai MPK 225.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going on is like you can utilize all of these different types of technology, but it really comes down to what humans want to hear is other humans, and they don't want to hear something that's just like a GarageBand loop. But that's what it's turned into. Well, of course they're not going to pay for that shit. You know, the energy that went into something like Journey Infinity, or that went into Queen Night at the Opera, or Beatles' White Album, or whatever. Like, you can hear the human in it, and you feel it, and you can touch it, you can taste it just by listening. And now, because there's no value in it, because it's just drag and drop, and you do it, they're not willing to pay for it. So now we have consumers that are like, well, why would I want to do that and go pay for it when I can just get some streaming thing and just kind of click on whatever I want? And, it's unimportant to them because the artist is not putting the energy into it that they should.
I see what you're saying. All right, that kind of makes sense. I have a really cool plan to do with what the project that you've helped me with.
Yeah.
I'm going to just, we need to do 2 more songs. Okay, but once that's done, we're getting 5 of the songs, and of the 5, because it's going to be an EP. So 2 of the songs, I'm just going to press like 1,000 CDs, and I'm going to just distribute them all through Austin, wherever, coffee shops and stuff. So then at least people will see it, hear it, and then they'll see a flyer. And then I'm putting much more.
Are you doing it for free?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it away.
Okay.
I'm giving away 2 songs on CD. Online, and then in hopes, and I've talked to Reese about this, and I've talked to Chris, and everybody's involved with my band. They're all on board with it. I think that's what it is. Like, here, take it. Come to the shows and buy some T-shirts and buy the EP. That's my plan.
That's your kindling. You're starting the fire.
Yeah, because I have to admit, though, I sort of since the end of May. I kind of fell into a really shitty depression because stuff happening in my life with my dad is sick, and then someone had stolen my identity in California. Then my son lost his health insurance because I couldn't produce this W-2 that somebody was using my social for, and I lost my insurance. I have heart issues. My son needed dental work, and everything was just like fucking.
Can't play tennis and it's hard to bowl.
Yeah, it was just like out of control. And then some stuff happened with my dad, and then him and I weren't talking. And then I was just trying to and then I just kind of went, and I just fell into this really shitty depression, and I couldn't do anything for 2 months. I'm barely breaking out of it now. It's been about a month. I'm feeling way better, exercising every day. I'm not drinking as much. I mean, I drank last week, but that's like few and far in between. But now I got brought all my guitars, and I'm just like sitting on here, and I'm excited to play music again, and I'm starting to get the wheels turning. And I played a show a couple weeks ago, and so all these ideas are popping about the CD. I'm just gonna go ahead and give it away to everybody, all my friends, 1,000 CDs, just to give them away. That's a lot of CDs, dude, and people are gonna hear about it, and people are gonna come to the shows, and that's my game plan, anyways, because I'm excited to be in a band again and play it again. Plus, also super blessed to jam with dudes, Jason Reese, awesome drummer, Chris Kyle, amazing vocalist and guitar player, and then Jason Westbrook, he's a really lifetime friend of mine. So, and then I got you, and then I got this, and it's just like, fuck it, man, let's just fucking make music and be happy. I'm gonna be happy again. I'm happy already, but I'm very excited to be working with you and for you to be helping us with our thing. And I don't know if you've heard what you've heard that he's done, but the unmastered version of the song that we're gonna do, I'm gonna make like a little tiny mini teaser video with that. It's unmastered, but it should be enough to like, oh, that's cool.
We created some really cool stuff. I mean, you're an insanely talented artist, and
Thank you.
the thing is that when you go through some of the downs in life, what I've come to find is that if you sit through the storm long enough, eventually the sky clears. And it's like there's a time to take action, and there's a time to just kind of hunker up and batten down the hatches and let the world spin for a moment. And you're coming out of that. It's like you open the hatch and like there's seagulls in the air or whatever. And like it's happy.
Yeah.
And your music has a similar kind of flow where it'll go into like this kind of dark place and then come out like on a thing where it feels elated. The crescendo of the songs is very intriguing, and I think that it's synonymous with life in general. It's like if you can make music make me feel something about my life, and I'm sitting there listening to it, and I'm like, yeah, I've been through that. That's when I really attach myself to it, and it plays into what I was talking about. Is like all these consumers, like they're not buying stuff because they don't believe it. But like when I hear your stuff, like I believe it. Like I believe what you're saying, and I know the feeling of it. Just even the note choices, I'm like, yeah, like
You
I've
helped
been
me,
there.
but you helped me though. You helped me. You pointed me into the right direction for a lot of the cool stuff. One of the interesting things. Can we talk about your dad real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so one of the interesting things that you told me, and by the way, I didn't know. I didn't know who Sean's father was until like months and months after we were hanging out. But you told me this one time, during the 80s, your family was going through a really rough time.
It would have been probably early 90s. It was like right around the time that the Black Album came out and Nirvana Nevermind.
Yeah, and you're telling me, and then your dad also told me too a little. He elaborated a little bit about there was this really rough time for your dad and your family music wise, and you're struggling to make ends meet. And I remember you told me that there was storage you guys were paying for to have to store all his gold records. And like the irony of that, a place to keep these gold records and platinum records and just keep them with you, but still like you're struggling, like how can this be happening? And then to see your father persevere through that and just continue on, and then obviously you guys are doing much better now, and I'm so happy about that. But that really stuck with me because even through the dark times, you're still holding. I could see your father having to support a family, and your mom's awesome, dude. The all perfect team. Because at the time I had a girlfriend, I was going through problems, and he would say like, "Well, my mom and my dad, they work through their shit, and look at them and all that kind of stuff." But having to think about somebody who's struggling financially and to take care of a family, but have a room full of gold records, crazy. So for all of you who don't know, Sean Rolie's father is Greg Rolie. He's the vocalist for Santana, and it just was. And I had talked to when we were over there at your house. Your dad kind of told me, how the rough times that were, and when things get really rough, you just gotta keep staying positive and focused, and no matter what happens, it's all about your family. He had a lot of really good things to say to me, but yeah, that really stuck with me, man.
He's an interesting dude. I mean, he's taught me everything that I know for the most part. He after Santana, when he got into Journey and he started that, and they did all that stuff, they were on top of the world. They sold out the Oakland Coliseum 7 nights in a row. They had 18 semi-trucks.
7 nights in a row?
Yeah. And so they had...
That's crazy, dude.
They had 18 semi-trucks carrying all their gear and video and lights and all that stuff, and like multiple buses and whatever. I mean, it was a caravan, And so he got into it where he became really... I want to call it luck, but it's not luck because it was self-induced. It took a lot of work to get there, a lot of work to just learn your instrument and then really learn how to take it to the business and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he got there and he wasn't happy, and so he was like, "I have everything in the world. I can, buy a house cash if I wanted to." And he's like, this isn't making me happy. So he ended up putting Jonathan Cain in place of him in Journey, and that's when they did like Don't Stop Believing and stuff. That's when it went like super pop. But when he started, it was like a progressive band. Like I don't know if you've heard some of those original.
No,
records,
I've seen I've seen the videos and stuff like that. Yeah, it was a different vibe for sure.
Yeah, so like 10-minute songs and stuff. You know, they were kind of a Rush kind of band, if you will, you know, when they first started. And then they decided they wanted to make some money. And then when it got into like the sellout kind of thing, he was just like, I'm out of here. Like,
Here's how much of a sorry, go ahead.
So what ended up happening was he got out, he was making money, catalog selling, Don't Stop Believing comes out, Separate Ways comes out, you know, Open Arms is there. And then obviously like Lights, Wheel in the Sky. And then all the Santana catalog and all that stuff is like running. And so he's doing all right. And he has a kid. Here I am. And Nirvana came out, and my neighbor was James Hetfield. And I remember my dad being like really frustrated with the fact that the Black Album got popular and that Nirvana came out and it got popular, because there was nothing more uncool at that time than to be the ex-dude from Journey and Santana when Metallica and Nirvana are rad. Okay, so like I remember like him like staring at the dude's house, you know, and you could hear him playing guitar and like rehearsing, you know, next to us, and he's just like, you know, and so we got to a point where we had to sell a bunch of stuff, and, you know, we were going through some hard times, but I never felt it, and that's the thing that was so cool about him, is like I never felt any of it. I was just a kid having fun.
Well, that's what a parent does.
Yeah, and it's like if I needed braces, I got like I didn't know where it came from. I just, you know, whatever. But I didn't realize at the time how like close to like bankrupt we were. And then things started relaunching. You know, Supernatural came out. Santana's popular again. The Journey guys got that guy Arnell, new lead singer. All of a sudden they're on the road. They're popular again. Relaunched the whole catalog. New forms of media, going from vinyl to 8-track to cassette to CD to MP3s to, you know, video to whatever. All of those things kind of helped us like get back up. And then when that happened, that's when Ringo Starr called, and he wanted him to be in the band. And so my dad plays with a Beatle now, and it's like, it's the craziest thing. He's writing a book that he's going to call.
Yes. Your dad should totally write a book.
Well, he's writing it right now, and he's going to call it Full Circle, because his first show ever was the Beatles, and now he's playing with one. And so it's the whole, like, you know, span of, like, what it took to do that. But my point is that you go through these ruts, you know, like you're talking about depression.
That's what happened to me, yeah. Man.
I've gone through it too, man. You know, you go through these things, and you're like, nothing's ever going to be good again, and you don't know how to handle the situation.
Or I'm worthless. Like, that was like my thing. I'm like, I'm worthless, man. This is shitty. It was fucked up, dude.
We have a saying in my family: it's 5 minutes at a time. You know, it's like baby steps. It's just like, what can I do today? Like, cool, I clean the refrigerator. Yes, I'm awesome. You know, like,
yeah.
Just kind of like get through stuff, and then things start happening for you if you let them happen. If you're open to them, and you're listening to the world, it's like sometimes it becomes overly taxing because it seems so overwhelming.
Yeah.
If you just kind of do one thing at a time and you get through it, eventually the door will open for you, and then you run through those motherfucking doors.
Yeah, that's like, what. No, there's opportunities like that happen. As a matter of fact, just by chance, this is something I wrote that I do every day. As soon as I wake up, I just think about where I need to be, and I'm like, I got that. I'm gonna be there. Things are gonna happen. My band stuff. The first thing I do in the morning, says right here, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everything that I have. Because at some point in the depression, I lost sight of how blessed I am, and I was like, okay, you know. So my son's happy. He's healthy. He's learning. He's in school. Okay, I'm alive. I got to take steps to take care. So I've been every day, just like you were saying. It's just like, okay, today I'm going to run for a mile. Tomorrow, next week I'm going to do 2 miles. Okay, Now I'm to the point where I do 4 miles a day, and then I do 5 miles on a Friday. So even if I'm feeling down, I'm like, I just fucking ran. I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking the steps. But the main thing is to realize what you have and be grateful for the things that you have every day. Even you might not feel instantly, cool like right away, but you do that enough times and tell yourself. I had to tell myself, I'm like, all right, stop shitting on yourself, because you got to look at yourself. I had to look at myself like somebody I was hanging out with. I'm like, God, you're so dumb. You're not doing. I'm like, why would I hang out with that guy? So I had to start switching it up and be like,
That's
okay,
a cool way of looking at
I'm
it.
not going to, okay, today I'm not going to shit on myself. Today I'm not going to do this. And if I catch myself doing, I'm like, nope, that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. So that, and I do a lot of meditation now. That shit really helps. Winning back the alcohol really helped a lot. And then seeing and hearing about people that when they're down and they're up, we all go through that shit. So when I was recovering from my, actually still in recovery from the depression stuff or anxiety, I think about stuff that your dad told me and you told me about your dad. It's like, okay, really highs, really big highs and really small lows, but you always count your blessings and you don't ever stop. You just don't stop believing, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? Because now it's just like, now I have really cool people around me right now. I got this cool idea. I don't know what it is, fuck it. I feel good about it.
One of the things that I think goes by the wayside with a lot of people that have an artistic nature, such as yourself, is every once in a while you got to just like watch the sunset and appreciate why it's pretty and why it's beautiful and what's special about it, and it will rise again.
Totally.
And it's the same thing as like watching a bird fly by and just looking at the shape of it and kind of like the freedom of it. And really spending time finding influence from other things. Like I mentioned, the Van Gogh painting. I sat there and I was in a trance looking at it.
That's really cool, man. I want to see one of those.
And I mean, we should go to an art museum together. Or whatever, but like, it's important to pull inspiration, being an artistic person, from life in general. People around you, just the grass, watching like the most basic thing. And just watch like kind of the world spin for a second, because it allows you to finally open your mind and utilize those things as influences to explain your life. And what you're talking about with, the highs and the lows is synonymous with writing a song.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You have your highs, and you have your lows, and then at the end you want it to be a happy ending. It's the same thing with a movie. The same thing with a novel.
I hadn't thought about
it's
it
the same
that
thing
way.
with a poem. It's the same thing even with a painting. Like all of the art is based off of success, triumph, whatever, even if it's in a negative way, which is really funny. But the point is that like even like the dudes in Slayer, I'm sure, sit down and have a glass of wine and watch the sunset, and like look at it, even if they're writing about like how the devil's going to take over your soul or whatever. Like the idea of just enjoying life and people around you is such a romantic thing that you can take and turn into art that inspires others. And what it takes is, it takes a village, right? You got to put everybody together that you believe in. And I'm slowly putting all of those people together in my life as well. It's like I realized who I don't want involved, and I've realized who I do want involved. So it's kind of the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And it's put a big smile on my face.
It's natural to go that way. I guess it's natural to go that way. Speaking of the Slayer, when I worked with Slayer, I remember thinking, oh, Kerry King, he's such a gnarly dude. He's going to be, and he is a gnarly dude. Kerry King's a gnarly dude. But
what'd you do for Slayer?
So Tom Araya had some recent back surgery, and he was kind of restricted on his traveling situation. So they had to come to Austin because I think Tom Araya lives somewhere in close to Austin.
That's why I first heard your name, because I set that up.
Yeah.
I brought all the gear in there to set it up, but then I wasn't allowed to be in the room, and some guy named Rich Mendez was going to be there, and I was like, oh cool.
Did you set up those mesas?
They were mine.
Those are your mesas?
Yeah.
Dude, Kerry hated those.
I know.
Did I tell you
heard
what
about
did
it.
I tell you what happened?
He got pissed about it. Yeah.
He made me okay. So first of all, because I know. Anyways, let's back up. Okay. So, but Kerry King was a really cool, nice dude to me. Tom Araya was a really cool ass dude to me, and they had to cut two guitar leads at Fifth Street Studios, and so yeah, I was Kerry King's guitar tech and basically whatever they needed, dude. So it was me, Greg Gordon, Kerry King, Tom
Greg's a
Araya.
good guy.
Greg Gordon is an awesome dude.
Yeah, he's really
Yeah,
cool.
we still stay in touch. That guy is cool as hell.
Yeah.
And so anyways, yeah, I walk in there and I inspect everything. I see the guitars and I'm like, I've seen that guitar before. I've seen Kerry play that guitar because he's got all these, Kerry King is guitars. Mm. And so I just go through and make sure they're all in tune and all that stuff, clean them up. And then I look around and Greg Gordon's just like, well, here are the amps and just do what you got to do. And then I looked at Greg and I was like, those are not his amps.
He has his own custom Marshall, doesn't he?
He's endorsed by Marshall.
Right.
Yeah.
He's endorsed by Marshall. And
He has a signature amp.
yes, he does. He brought two of those. He had one custom signature and he had just a stock signature. So when I saw the Mesas and I told Greg, I was like, Kerry's not going to like that. Kerry's not going to like that. And he goes, well, why? Those are really... He's like, well, I don't know, man. I'm just telling you. It might be a problem. Because I knew that Dave Mustaine had a Mesa endorsement. And Dave Mustaine, anybody into the metal drama knows that Dave Mustaine and Kerry King don't really get along that well or see eye to eye, or I don't know what the fucking deal is. So I was told to just shut up and just do my job. And our mutual friend told me that. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
He told me that. He's just like, just keep your mouth shut, do your job, and just do whatever they say. But I had to say something, and I was like, well, no, he's not going to want those. I'm just saying right now. And then, sure enough, Dino Paredes is there. He's a guy from American Records, and Dino's like, yep, just make a left, go right. Yep, all right, cool, we'll be here. And then he looks at me, he goes, all right, Kerry's going to be here right now. Tom's going to come in about 15 minutes. So, yeah, just be ready. Whatever Kerry needs is what And I was like, okay. So I'm just sitting there in the studio and I'm looking at the door and I'm like, okay, Kerry King from Slayer is going to walk into the door. And I've been listening to Slayer since 5th grade. This is fucking crazy. So Kerry King walks in. I stand up. I introduce myself. Super nice dude. And he goes, well, let's see what we're fucking with here. And he goes into I'm in the control room. And he goes into where his shit's set up. And I just hear him say, what the fuck is this? And then he just walks back out. He looks at me and he goes, whose ever fucking stupid idea was that to bring those things here? I want them out now. And he just walked off. And then Greg's like, what's up? And then Dino told Greg, well, Mesa Boogies, that's what Dave Mustaine plays.
Yeah,
so
that's funny.
he's like, we have to get them out of here now. So I was given the job to get them, cover them up with blankets, and put them on the other side of the building, like not just the room, but like as far away from everything as possible. And then I came back, and then they couldn't track. So Kerry's like, I'm not going to record. I need a Marshall cabinet. I need a Marshall cabinet right now. Right now, in order for me to do this. I can't do this without a Marshall. And then I was like, I got a Marshall. And he goes, go get it. So I ran in my truck across town and I picked up my Marshall cabinet, which had vintage 30s in it. And I brought it back. And that is the cabinet he used to cut two of the leads on the new album.
That's rad.
Chasing Death and Implode.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
yeah, I got a
that
call.
was great. That was a cool experience, man. It's surreal. It was weird.
I got the weirdest call about that. It was the night before they had load in, And the phone call was basically like, "What do you have?" Because he doesn't have his gear here except for a couple of heads and whatever. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
they had his heads shipped here.
yeah, but I have a Mesa endorsement, and so I was like, well, I got some Mesa stuff. I mean, it's kind of metally. I don't know. I'll bring
They were
it
nice
out.
cabinets.
Yeah, I mean, they're
They were
in good
nice
shape.
cabinets.
And whatever. So I was like, well, I'll bring that out. I got some mics and some guitars and whatever, and just whatever I could do to help. I was just trying to be a part of the process, and then I heard that story that he got like really pissed off.
He got really mad.
I was like, I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings, Carrie, buddy. Like, I was just, here to help out, But literally the night before, I got the phone call, so I just had to like scramble and like find a bunch of road cases and just put stuff together and get it down there. And anyway, I haven't even heard the record. I never listened to it.
It's a good record, man. I was really excited to hear it. As soon as it came out, I texted Dino and I was like, "This is fucking awesome." And of course, it was like an honor. For a second, I was like, just fantasizing. It would be so awesome if I got a credit on the, but of course I'm not gonna get a credit.
Right.
But yeah, they used my Carrie King used my cabinet to cut 2 leads on the new album, on Implode and Chasing Death. And so after all that, because there were some points there, my job was basically Carrie King would sit there and just do his lead, and what Greg was doing was compositing. We're compositing leads, find out which one was the best one. Carrie King would like sit there, shred the lead, and just take it off and hand me his guitar, and my job was basically just to keep the guitar warm.
Right.
So I'm just sitting there keeping the guitar warm, right?
Yeah, because the wood will chill out, and then it
yeah,
affects
that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
So I was just like sitting there, and then just give it right back to Carrie. Carrie was sitting right here, just cutting leads next to me. And
So you were a guitar fluffler?
yeah. I was a guitar fluffer,
for
dude.
the devil.
Yeah, for Carrie. And so that was this very cool situation. And I remember at that point in my life, I was just very mega positive and happy about everything. And things were really falling into place, which was, I think that was the year too that I conceived my son. And because I had been wanting a son. But I remember a lot of people after the fact, because I couldn't tell them who I was working for when this was happening. I could only talk about it after they were out of town. So when I told people, that people had a hard time understanding how that gig happened. And I just remember telling people, I'm like, every day I wake up, not every day I wake up, I'm just always trying to be positive, and I'm trying to stay focused and just be positive and just always just be happy to be alive. And it's not like Slayer called me up and were like, "Hey, dude, we heard that you're really pissed off and you're so unhappy, so we thought we'd give you a gig." It wasn't like that. It was like, "Hey, we heard that you're a really cool dude. You want to come and work for us?"
Well, that brings that.
Which explains there's more to it than just skill. People want to work with cool people.
Well, and that brings it full circle to what you had been talking about with Ralph. It's like, how do you do this? It's like, well, I don't know. I just kind of like was cool to people, and they called me.
Attitude goes a long way.
Don't be a dick and smile. Like,
You can't be a star fucker either.
yeah, exactly. You got to know how to hang.
Yeah.
That's something that
yeah.
I've had with like some ex-girlfriends and stuff, where like they don't know how to hang, and they like show up with like a record, like, "Hey, can you sign this?" And I'm like, "We're backstage at Ringo Starr. Like, he's not gonna sign a fucking thing for you. Can you just like appreciate shaking the dude's hand and
Right.
hang? Like, here is a table of a lot of food, and here's some really awesome musicians. Here's the guy that played guitar on Thriller. He's hanging out, and Bill Murray's here. Like, can we just like chill with these dudes? Like, going around and just trying to be fanboy or whatever, and shake their hand and get your tits signed is like, that's for the meet and greet.
Right.
That's not how you hang with people. So with artists, when you bring somebody like that around, it kind of like they look at you
weird.
and they're like,
Yeah.
"Why did you bring this person here? This is our little like cocoon of like our little sanctity."
Yeah.
And
There was a moment where after the gig was done, Carrie says to me, "I heard that you quit your job to do this gig." And I was like, "Yep, I quit my job to be here to work for you." And he goes, "What, are you crazy?" And I was like, "No, man, I've been listening to Slayer my whole life, and and this is very important to me. And then he says, well, you're fucking crazy for getting your job. We're joking around about it. And at first thing, he came up to me, he goes, you know what? You did a fucking terrible job. I just want to let you know. And then he goes, no, I'm just fucking with you, man. And so like he's like, so they offered to take some pictures with me. So I took some pictures with him. And, camera's going to die. And let's take a break real quick. Hold up. What? And we are back. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, Slayer thing. They patted me on the back and they gave me a autographed CD. And I remember feeling like, man, why'd you give me an autographed CD?
It makes me feel like a fan.
It makes me feel like a fan, right? So anyway, South by Southwest, the following South by Southwest, I donated it for some like auction to benefit children's music school or something. And yeah, and I stayed in touch with those dudes. Shit, man, that was a while ago, 2012.
It's so much cooler to be a part of the process of making something grow than it is to just like have like an autographed T-shirt or something. You know? Like I've always felt that way.
It really did kind of make me feel like a fan, even though I was. But they're like, here you go, buddy. And I was like,
it's kind of like a little...
Oh, man. Like, why'd you do that for?
It's like a pat on the head, like, oh, look at the little baby.
Oh,
you know?
Oh, he's fulfilling a dream, isn't he? But, yeah, but it wasn't like when I met your dad. I wasn't like... I wasn't like starstruck or anything, but even though I grew up listening to Santana and all my aunts and uncles would probably have lost their shit, but I know the rules. I've been in those positions and situations, and of course, I'm not no fanboy like that, and I'm pro. But one conversation your father and I did have that really kind of like made me go, whoa, was after dinner, we're chilling, and his dad and I stayed at the table, and we were drinking tequila, and he was sitting there, and he asked me about my son, about Desi. And he goes, are you raising... This is funny. He goes, are you raising him or are you raising him Latino? And then I was like...
I didn't know that story. That's a good one.
Yeah. And anyways, hang on for a second. It's a really funny story. It's going to make sure I got this fucking stupid thing.
Sean, I'm trying to remember how I met you. Was it at the Bubble with Scorpion Child?
That might have been it.
Yeah.
We've run into each other a bunch of times. I have a really horrible memory for people that really matter, and I have a really great memory for things that don't matter. I'm like a fountain of useless information. Somehow I dumped the hard drive, and I know that we've run into each other multiple times. There's been like places where we're at a show or whatever, but I think Scorpion Child might have been the first one.
I remember going out to your house in Dripping Springs. We recorded the cicadas that are on the album.
Right. So that was the first time we ran into each other. And then I've seen you around town. I mean, Austin's such a small place.
Yeah, man.
But that was the first time, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think so.
All right, so back to the
tequila
the surreal moment. The really surreal moment was he goes, are you raising him or are you raising him Latino? And then I was like, well, he's Latino. I mean, I'm raising him Latino. And he goes, you know what I mean. Are you raising him Latino, or are you just raising him? I'm like, oh, okay. No, I'm raising him good. Like, I'm being nice to him. Then he goes into, he's like, yeah, because, he goes, when me and Carlos, when we were growing up together, and I was really close with him and his family, and he was telling me basically about Latino parenting. And there's a lot of, George Lopez has a lot of comedy about Latino parenting, and basically he says it in a way where we could laugh at it, but Latino parenting, second generation, is it's pretty tough. And he was making sure that I wasn't raising him And that he's like, because I saw Carlos and his brothers, I saw them go through a lot of terrible stuff, and when not, you know, it was kind of rough for them, and they're growing up and their parents, and yeah, man, and I would go to their house, and I was living with them for a while, and I got to be a part of how they're, and I was like, oh, you're talking about Carlos Santana. Like, and I was like, oh, weird. I'm talking about you're talking about Carlos Santana. You grew up. Yes, I almost forgot that you sang for Santana, and that was like the only moment I was like, Carlos Santana. Oh, the Carlos Santana. Growing up with Carlos Santana, it was fucking.
Did he start the band?
It was wild, dude.
My dad started the band with Carlos.
I love your dad, by the way. He's a badass motherfucker.
He's so real.
Yeah, he's such a cool ass. He's such a cool.
I can't
dude.
say enough about him.
I was happy. I was happy to see him at Toto too. It was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. He's such a cool guy because like he'll play with anyone, you know, and he just likes music. As long as he doesn't have to use the black keys.
He's like,
that's
what I do. That's what I do.
He's
I'm
like
like,
anything that's a flat or a sharp. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. But
That's
I'll
what
play
I
A,
was
B, C, D, E, F, whatever.
That's what I do on these things. I'm like, well, how do you use these black ones? I figured it out the other day. I was fucking around with some stuff, but
he
all majors.
He started Santana with Carlos in '66, I think it was, maybe pushing '67. But he got introduced. He was in this other band, got out of it. He went into architecture, and he was going to school for it. And this guy's like, man, I've seen
That's
you
really
play,
cool.
and I know this guy that plays guitar with congas, and it'd be cool to see you guys play together. They ended up in like some barn somewhere, like doing like a jam that was in Marin County, and the cops were called because they were smoking weed or something, and so they ran into this tomato patch, and they like looked at each other, and they're like sitting in this tomato patch, and the cops pull up, and they're hiding, and he looks at Carlos, and Carlos looks at him, and they're like, so we should start a band, and Carlos is like, yeah, let's do it. And I got a conga player, and he's like, well, let's find a drummer. I know a guy that plays bass, whatever, and it just started, and then literally 2 years later, they were playing Woodstock. And it was at a perfect time where everybody was grouping together. This is something that I talked to you about a little bit earlier, but it takes like a lot of people coming together and doing something special. And one of the things that I will say about this town is that it is poised and ready to go. It is a tiger in the grass waiting for the lame Impala to come by, and I think that, Seattle, San Francisco, New York, Detroit, LA, they've all had their shot. London, there's been different areas that have like sparked, and Austin is so ready to do it. And we have all the talent in the world, and people that care
There's a lot
about
of good
each other.
bands. There's a lot of good bands here.
Well, and there's a brotherhood with all of it, and sisterhood. Like we're all like.
Yeah, this is
cool
not
with
an
each
accident.
other. Yeah,
this is not an
exactly.
accident.
And when you see that all coming together, I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I'm staying right here, and we're gonna base everything out of this town.
Watch this.
Fail.
That sucked. Anyways.
Anyway,
Sorry.
so when they started Santana, the whole thing was the reason why it took off was because everybody was doing stuff together. And they were open to like, yeah, sure, I'll give that a shot, whatever. And that's how the whole thing got going. It was hardly like by design. It's like, well, I don't know. I'm not doing anything on, Tuesday. Like, I'll come over, and like it turned into this amazing thing that's lasted for so many years. But it took the whole like grouping of all of these people,
all of them together.
Yeah, where they all believed in each other, like them and Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead, and the Flower Power thing, and then Woodstock, and Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and like all these guys got together. I have this recording. It's never been released ever, but I found it, and it's a recording of Eric Clapton, Jefferson Airplane, Santana, and some of the guys from Grateful Dead jamming, and it's like an hour long. And you hear people like put their guitar down and like go and walk out of the room, and they're probably like doing whatever they're doing in the other room. Grace Slick comes in, you hear her voice talking to somebody in the background as they're playing, and they just jam. Some of it's great, some of it's horrible. But the point is that they were all hanging out, and so it was like, oh, I got an idea for that bridge. Like, not like how many points are you going to give me for this, idea. It was like people really creating something special. And then there's an artist there and he's like, can I paint you? Whatever. And but it created a whole movement, and it only lasted like 3-4 years, and it created like an entire world. Like the reason why I can swim in my parents' pool at a ranch is because people bought music, and it's incredible. But this town, and like Rich, what you're doing to put everybody together, and like Ralph, your energy into just kind of being like, well, I know that I like this. I'm just going to kind of do it. And hopefully with me and some other people that I know, you start putting it all together, and it's like, we got the energy to pull this off, I think,
Right on. And on that note, let's go ahead and listen to this on the way out. And hopefully it's not too loud. So, this is Firewalk with me. Just me and Jason recording on this one. And this is recorded at Arlen. This guy recorded us. And this is pretty much it.
What's the tuning?
AADGAE. So, yes. This little that I'm in, it's only temporary. That's what I say. This skin, this vessel that I'm in, it's only temporary. Yeah. But anyways, I can't wait till people hear this. Yeah, this is me, Reese, on here. Anyways, all right, Sean.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for coming out, man. I appreciate you.
Thank
and
you.
You guys made my week. You too, Ralph. You made my week, bro.
Likewise.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And go and check out Rich's band, and stay tuned for more podcasts and all that stuff. This is just way too much fun.
That's right. Awesome, guys. Thank you, guys. Right. Everybody say goodbye.
Adios.
I don't wanna be buried in a pet cemetery.